Welcome to the Kamado Show. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Coley. We are the brother-sister anime duo. Not in a love you like a brother-sister kind of way, but as in go ask our mom, she's the same person.
This show is an anime lover's safe haven catered toward the average anime lover, free from spoilers.
So today's episode is going to be about the Blue Exorcist Season 3, second half, Episode 12. And then we are also going to be talking about the third Season 3, Episode 1.
Yeah.
According to Crunchyroll, there are 3 Season 3s.
Yeah, 3 Season 3s. And we've been calling this like second part of Season 3 the second half because we thought that's kind of what it was. But I guess now we should be saying Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 now. So, yeah, I don't know. It's confusing. I know this Crunchyroll is dividing them into sagas now, but still calling it Season 3.
I don't quite understand why they're doing that. It makes it a little confusing.
Right.
Like, why not just call it Season 4 or Season 5?
Uh-huh.
But anyways, we will address this elephant in the room here.
Yeah, what's this?
So, this is a little mystery item that we are going to be opening. I already know what it is. Brandon does not know what it is. So, Brandon is going to be opening this at the end of our episode, and it'll be kind of a teaser for something that's going to be coming here in the near future for us.
Ooh, all right. I can't wait. I really want to see what this is. I know coming from you is going to be something really good.
End of the episode, we'll get to unveil it, and we'll get to see what that is.
All right, awesome. Well, speaking of the end, we're kind of toward the end of this. I guess we'll call it a saga now. So it's almost like a season finale and then a season premiere, except I think they're using the word saga because I guess we're still in Season 3. So how does this episode begin now?
Going back to our previous episode, you hadn't watched the little scene after the credits, so I kind of gave you the rundown of what happened, and it basically had ended on Yukio spotting a gun, and we had kind of said, well, do you think he's going to turn and use it on the good guys? Well, he certainly did.
Sure enough. Yep. Shot Rin a couple times.
Yeah, so he shot him in the head, in the throat, and then in the stomach, I believe. Mm-hmm. So Shima shows up with the Illuminati and a helicopter. So Yukio is going to run off with them, and he's basically done with the Knights of the True Cross.
Mm-hmm. And we called it. We pretty much predicted he was eventually going to dabble with the Illuminati in here. Sure enough, of course, he doesn't have a whole lot of options. He was basically arrested and going to be tried, even though he might have had a fighting chance since they don't think it was his gun. But yeah, I think this is, probably just out of options at this point.
Based on his track record, he was pretty much kind of finished with the Knights of the True Cross anyways, like pointing a gun at your head campus guy probably isn't a good way to continue on your studious career there.
He is to the point where he said, well, Knights of the True Cross and Illuminati are basically the same at this point, right? Mm-hmm. As he's learned of the experiments that the True Cross Order was doing to try to create basically vessels for the I guess call them Demon Kings, which the Illuminati is also trying to figure out now. So, at this point in time, I kind of understand where he's starting to lean that way. And he said that at Rin.
Yeah, so he told Rin all of what he uncovered, basically kind of like, it was such a pain in the butt for me to uncover all of this, kind of, so you should know this too. So basically he says we were both raised to be weapons, and like the Illuminati and Knights of the True Cross are both kind of bad guys. They're both participating in this human experimentation.
He explains Mephisto's been doing this using human lives in these experiments, including Father Fujimoto, who was
Yes.
born from these experiments.
That was really interesting, which we see that more here a little later, that we'll talk about here a little later. But so Shiemi tries to run out there to stop things, and Maimon stops her.
I thought that was really interesting how, so he was with them to try to help get Yukio out of there. So we kind of like, oh, okay, now he's on their side, he's helping them. But then when he gets in her way, when they're trying to help, it's like, does he just really want to see Satan's power released? Is that's where I was confused what his goals were, because now all of a sudden he's not helping them again. He's kind of he also seems really happy when the Coma sword breaks.
Yeah. I couldn't believe that the Coma sword broke during this altercation between the two of them.
Well, it's like kind of something you'd expect to see in a season finale, or in this case, a saga finale. So there's a whole lot to unpack in these 2 episodes. So we'll try to get through this stuff as quickly as possible, and make sure we hit all the highlights and stuff that's advancing the story forward. At one point, he also, Amaimon that is, also kicks Shiemi, saying, "Stay out of Father's way." So it's really interesting. I almost kind of feel like him and Mephisto want some of this stuff to happen.
To them, it's just entertainment. Everything that's going on is entertainment. I don't think they are necessarily on the human side because they love humans so much. It's just, well, if the humans were to go extinct, what else would there be to do?
Right. Yeah.
It's just a time passer kind of thing for them. But so you had written a quote here.
So kind of speaking about the sword breaking, and the reason I wanted to write the quote down is just so that I make sure I got it exactly the way Satan said it. He said, "Now that the sword is broken, now the sword is broken, and at long last I freed you from that infuriating curse." He continues on to say, "I have been checking in on you every once in a while." So it kind of indicates that, and curious what you think. I think Satan can sort of see through Yukio's eyes and speak through them, but he doesn't possess doesn't possess Yukio. Right. And Yukio even says at one point, he's like, "No, he's not possessing me. I have full control.
I'm in total control." And it was interesting when he was getting in the helicopter how he covered the eye. And then Satan's like, "Don't cover it." So I'm wondering if he has the eye covered, Satan can't see or maybe even hear what's going on, possibly.
Yeah, so it seems like Yukio is almost like sort of this anchor for Satan to be in this world in some sort of way without possessing a vessel. But Rin's body is what he needs. Actually, I think he even says he needs his body to be capable of withstanding the burden of the full flame. He needs his body can possess the full flame, which they continue to talk about. So that he can possess his body. Is basically, he just says it straight up like that.
Yeah, and it was interesting kind of when the Coma sword broke and his full he was just completely engulfed in flames. There for a second, it just looked like that was it. Rin's done. He's turning to ash and everything. But then his demonic heart woke up and he kind of took his full form. But then he woke up a little different. So not only was his hair different, it turned from black to white, he also acted very differently, which Shiemi noticed pretty much right away. She said his flames are hot. Normally they're warm.
Yeah, because he had found a way to control them so he wouldn't burn his friends, if I remember right, a couple episodes back. So she's it's almost like he's not, maybe not necessarily in control, but in this case, his demon side or demon heart, whatever, just really doesn't really even care about them.
Yeah, he was pretty cruel during this kind of little period here. He still had all of Rin's conscious memories. He recognized all of his friends, but he just obviously wasn't himself.
One thing I wanted to note, which is interesting, you see in anime when someone's hair goes from, or just changes, a lot of times it's dark to white. A lot of times, I don't know if that's the case here, and maybe it is, but it's usually some kind of like something that was just so traumatic. They just, basically their hair went white because from the stress of all, you see that a popular one that comes to mind is Ken Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul. And that guy is constantly, his hair is always changing in that, but for the very first time it goes from dark to completely white, just the trauma and the stress from that.
Oh yeah.
Another one is actually from Hunter x Hunter, which you talked me into watching that. I'm trying to remember I think the guy's name is Nove. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. It's the guy who could like create those little shadow portals, and like actually in this case he went bald. He didn't his hair didn't go white. He just went bald.
Man.
But I know there's other examples throughout anime, but
it's been so long since I've watched Hunter x Hunter. I completely forgot about that. But yeah, now that you mention it, I do remember him just aging dramatically and just looking really terrible at the end of everything. Because his hair was black originally at the start, right?
Yeah. But he had some kind of I think it was like the aura or something he felt from the chimera ants, and he just freaked him out so much. He's just like, he just had to get out of there. I can't go back. And he was just so traumatized from that. And then that basically happened. But there's some, I think, truth to that, maybe not to the extreme. You see like, they say like stress does cause that. You can even look at like presidents of the United States when they first started, then when they ended, it's only 4 or 8 years.
They aged dramatically.
Their hair is just almost white by the end of it. It's just the stress of holding that position. And,
yeah. But so when Shiemi realized that the flames were hot instead of warm, both her and Ni, I don't know if this was Shiemi ordering Ni or if Ni just kind of picked up on her being freaked out and did it on his own, but they created an entire forest of trees basically to kind of protect themselves from Rin. Which I thought was really cool. I don't think we've ever seen her display that much of her power before.
Yeah, so, I mean, Rin seemed, even though the evil side, seemed really impressed by her, even though he is, just ready to destroy it.
Maimon even had mentioned something too. So there's something deeper going on with Shiemi that we haven't uncovered yet. Because Maimon even said, oh, so you're like the one, or he said something like that. So it's apparently something going on with that. Which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
But Maimon was super excited to see Rin's transformation.
Felt like he's been wanting that. But I almost kind of feel like him and Mephisto are both on the same page there. While maybe they're on the side of humans, they also don't seem to always do the stuff that
it's in the human's best interest necessarily. Whatever's most entertaining or interesting, whatever will create the best show for them.
Yeah. So basically after this, Rin is able to gain control after this, kind of fist fight or whatever. It's just
inner
kind
monologue.
of kind of lame when they do that. But anyway, get past that and he collapses and retrieves. And we see this character. I didn't know who this character was.
Just
kind of like
Mary Poppins floating in with an umbrella, kind of, but like in an orange suit.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because none of the characters were wearing orange, were they? Weren't they like all wearing? So so this is a character we haven't seen yet in this scene, correct?
Right, or at least not that we really know of. Like I didn't. So he wakes up in Mephisto's place, but it doesn't seem like it would have been Mephisto because Mephisto's still pretty injured and his color's purple.
Yeah.
Would he have worn an orange suit like that?
I don't know, because I feel like we heard a voice say something, but I didn't know whose voice it was or who that was. So, yeah, I really wonder who that was that came floating in like that.
And when Rin wakes up and goes and sees Mephisto, he's not wearing orange then either. So it leads me
Correct.
to believe that it's someone who works for Mephisto, maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be someone who works for Mephisto, at the very least.
And that's kind of how this episode about ends then, right? With Rin talking to Mephisto. And he just sort of demands that he tells him, like, where do I come from, basically. Kind of the questions that Yukio was asking, which oddly enough, Mephisto wouldn't tell Yukio, but he's like, oh,
Yeah.
Rin, I'm so happy you're finally asking. So happy you're finally asking.
Yeah, which I didn't get. Like, Yukio asked you and you were just like being a jerk to him and flat out refused. Like, why are you like, sure, Rin, anything for you?
Yeah. Do you think there was something... He had said something to Rin about Yukio, said like, why, just tell Yukio, why did you need me to, I thought he had said something like, I had so many times or something like that. Do you
I
think there
didn't
was some kind of
understand
thing where
that.
he's the king of time or the demon of time or anything, but I don't know if he can change it. Did he maybe tell Yukio and then it didn't work out or something? They had to like reverse the time. They wouldn't do that in this series, would they?
I don't
Like
think Mephisto can time travel like that, can he?
Okay.
I don't think he can
I didn't-
like go back in time and
Yeah,
change things.
I don't think so either. I think he can kind of like know like what's going to happen before or after, but I don't know if he can control it though. It seems like he just observes oftentimes.
I think so. Because even when he was talking to Rin about going back in the past, he's like, you're not going to create any time paradoxes if you interact with anybody. Everyone's just going to be very confused.
Yeah.
So it seems like his power, he doesn't have the ability to change anything.
Okay.
It just creates confusion.
Okay. All right. So moving on, I guess, is there anything else to talk about in this episode before moving on? I mean, he hides Rin's demonic heart. That's not a huge thing. He changes his clothes. That's not a huge thing.
Makes him undetectable, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
yeah,
so moving
whatever.
on to this next episode, and we're calling episode 1 of, I guess, part 3 of season 3. Basically, the next saga, as Crunchyroll is calling it, which there's a lot in this to unpack because now we're going to get a ton of answers. And I think we're going to probably the next couple episodes get a ton of
this was a
episodes
pretty
here.
cool episode. So they went back 40 years in the past. I don't know if you caught that.
Yep,
When
yeah.
Mephisto was sitting there waiting for him, and Rin was like, "You came back in time with me too?" And he's like, "No, I'm the Mephisto from this time period. I just have time to kill, so I'm gonna come along with you."
Again, I think it just indicates that Mephisto, the time is just so different to him. He can kind of, I think he could like see ahead and then see backward or something
Yeah.
like that. It's a little confusing, but he basically says, well, here's this guy. You would know him as Father Shiro Yugi Fujimoto. Sorry, I stumbled on his name. Just a quick glimpse, but then we see Yuri as a child with her sort of what she calls her family. I mean, there's Oku, which is her father, and then I don't think these characters are that important, but Nico and Obaba. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they reveal that her father was a former exorcist.
Yeah. So, I mean, not necessarily her blood father, just a guy who like found her when she was
okay. I didn't
dumped,
realize that.
and he's just kind of the guy who's raising her.
Oh,
So,
okay.
not necessarily a blood father. Kind of a similar situation to what Shiro and like Rin are.
I guess all three of them then were her just kind of
Her
sort of adopted
family.
parents, and then because Obaba, I believe, was also a former exorcist too.
Right,
I
yeah.
didn't mention her because I thought that was her blood father, but if that's her adopted father, then I'll mention that both of those two were former exorcists.
So we got to see her first interaction with a demon, which came in the form of just a blue fireball. So she told her adoptive family that she got to meet and play with a blue fireball, which turned out to be Satan, but they called him another name. They called him Rinka.
Rinka, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess at that time, that was just another word that they used to call Satan. Satan went by different names at that time.
Yeah, they didn't know him at the time, and I think he didn't have a. I think Mephisto said he basically just doesn't have an ego yet, which is basically in psychology, he just doesn't quite know. But then when they were playing, he said, "Well, this is his first intelligent interaction," and basically it was just him playing with her, so he's kind of learning a little bit.
Which I thought was so interesting. If he didn't really have an intelligent interaction or an ego beforehand, Mephisto is already here, and Lucifer is already here. If he didn't have the intelligence at the time, how does he have offspring?
I don't understand that either, because unless he's fully himself in Gehenna, and then where Asya, maybe there's something different, some kind of difference in his
I bet you're right.
presence in Asya, perhaps.
I bet you're right.
That's the only thing I would understand, because he should, if he's their father, he should totally know what's going on.
Yeah, that's interesting that you said that. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, that's a really good thought. So after Yuri is done playing with Satan, they cut to a different scene, and not necessarily her house per se, but the place that she was living at was burned down.
Yeah, so is it safe to assume that Satan burned the house down? Is that
would be my guess too.
Okay.
I know all of the people thought, oh, these hobos were just careless with their fire and burned the place down. So all of her adopted family has passed because of this fire. So she's on her own. She's stuck.
And so she goes from place to place, just trying to get food, just to survive. And she comes across Shiro's hideout now, right?
Yeah, it was really funny when she went in and saw everything. Of course, you see kind of the normal things, the bed, the food, but then she sees dirty magazine.
which is, it's so funny, because it's sort of been a little subtle thing they do about him throughout the whole series. Even when Rin, I think it was the first episode, was confessing his sins to him or something, and then says something about women, and he's like, "What? I want to see." And of course, in his office, we saw when Shura, he had a bunch of posters. So that's funny how they show him. We're like, "Oh, okay, I think I know who this is."
Yeah, super funny. So she's starving at this point, so she eats all his food. She just eats those noodles completely dry and raw. You hear her crunching on them, because she probably doesn't know how to cook for herself. But yeah. Shiro comes back, and he's ticked and is threatening her and is being super mean to her at the time.
Right. Well, yeah, because he's on the run and he's trying to keep a low profile. So have an extra person there is more of a risk for him, of course.
Yeah. He was super mean to her, and so she calls him a Yukio Taco.
Which that was strange. Because it's basically a word for a big snowman, right?
Yeah.
You just call him that because he has white hair. That's really it.
Yeah. So she said, he's big, ice cold, and terrifying. So I looked up what Yukio Toko was, what it means in Japanese, and it's basically another word for the abominable snowman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
A little dramatic, but yeah.
So Yuri ends up making a deal with Shiro in exchange for more dirty magazines.
For letting her stay there.
For letting her stay there.
I know where you can get something. Oh,
so
man.
That's just so funny. But then they get busted. The Knights of the True Cross or Illuminati, whoever you want to say it is at this point, they're kind of the same still at this point. They find them with their demon dogs, and the Exorcist calls Shiro Azazel.
Azazel, yeah. They say, "Oh, you're for an Azazel, you sure do something." I thought it was interesting how they called him an Azazel.
Yeah. because he's a clone.
Yeah. So
They don't even
we'll
really
find out
see
more
him
there.
as like human, which Shiro doesn't see himself as human either. He says that.
He made a comment like that to say that. So, of course, then they take him to the asylum, which is interesting. They call it the asylum, not because it's not the True Cross Academy yet.
Yeah.
As they know it.
Originally, they weren't going to take Yuri with them, but since she was able to see the demon dogs, they said, "Well, you're coming with us."
Something with her, yeah.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. Then we also got to find out more about Yuri's family then as well, right? So they ran a background check on her.
Yeah, Yuri Agen. So now we know her last name. Of course, we kind of already did from the history books where they've teased about her name, but now she knows her name, and now her learning a little bit more and more about her.
Yeah, so very interesting that the Agen family was once running a wealthy conglomerate, but they went bankrupt, and basically the family scattered. Her mother is deceased, and they don't know who her real father is. So that's basically kind of the gist of what they uncovered about her, which I guess was a quick, easy way to not have to go into a full-blown backstory with her.
Right. And maybe we'll get more in the episodes to come. I feel like they're really unraveling a lot. And I don't think Rin is exactly going to get out of this time anytime soon. So
yeah,
I think they're just going to boom, introduce so much stuff now. And I think we're going to have some loaded episodes up ahead.
Yeah, I think so too. So buckle up, get ready for some past experiences, and there's going to be more to come.
Yeah. Anything else on this episode that you want to talk about? We're kind of getting close to the end there.
What I thought was really interesting at the end, the very, very end of this episode, was Shiro shows up in Mephisto's office, and it doesn't seem like he is studying to be an exorcist at all, is he?
Right.
Like, he's just a test subject.
Right, yeah. Well, and Mephisto even says when he comes in, they say, "Hey, we brought him to you," like he said. He's like, "Oh, so you are Shiro, test number SO004 of the Azazel series." And, at that point, I feel like that will be where the next episode picks up, where we'll, perhaps learn a lot more about him here coming up.
Yeah.
We have a couple minutes left. I don't know if you want to do this, or we could maybe ask a question for the audience with the remaining two minutes. I don't know. What do you think? Like, this is.
I'm antsy. I want you to open this.
Okay.
So
all right.
go ahead,
let's do this.
open it.
All right.
So make sure you get it on camera.
Sure. Yeah. I love this green Tanjiro paper.
Yeah, looks like Tanjiro's colors from Demon Slayer.
All right, what do we have here? Oh yeah, I love this.
All right,
I'm gonna hold it up so the camera can see here.
So for our audio only listeners, we have a Goku statue, which so I was out shopping with our mom, who we mention in every episode.
At the beginning of every episode,
and we saw this guy when we were out shopping, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. We're getting ready to talk about this, which preview for next episode, we're going to be talking about Dragon Ball Daima next episode.
Finally, this is my jam. Yeah, finally getting some Dragon Ball stuff.
Yeah, so
I can't wait.
Mom purchased this for us so he can be our centerpiece for our next series.
That is genius. Oh,
Isn't that's so
genius.
Cool?
Yes,
so
I love
shout
this.
out to our mom for getting us this cool centerpiece.
Thank you, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
Oh, yeah. I love this. Yeah, so Dragon Ball Daima, finally can talk some Dragon Ball. That's since in episode 1 I said that was my first anime. So here we are, finally talking about One of my passions.
Yeah,
Biggest
so
passions, I should say.
stick with it, and we'll talk about that next episode.
Yeah, next episode. So that's all for today's episode of the Kamado Show. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Coley. Thanks for tuning in. Don't be a Kamadope. Like and subscribe to our channel for more anime fun with your favorite brother-sister anime duo.
Now, new episodes come out weekly, so let us know what you'd like us to talk about, and we will see you next time on the Kamado Show.